The bigger question, which is many golfers go through, is how do they minimize the pattern that is going out to in?
Yeah.
That's like number one thing,
Number
right?
one.
So in golf, sometimes we focus on what's wrong so much, we forget to ask what's right.
Yeah.
That was a very solid golf shot, great balance, great tempo. We want to reinforce that, don't we?
Yeah.
So we may have to feel this left shoulder goes a touch more that way on the first move than that way.
Okay. Hello, beautiful people of YouTube. Welcome back to another episode of Scratch to Scratch, where I start from scratch, completely nothing, to try to become a scratch golfer by every means possible. If you are new here, we've been working a lot on our hips, activating this bump and turn, and today we are back with Rick Sessenhaus, one of the greatest coaches in the world, in order to alleviate my out to in path that I know a lot of people have problems with as well. And so with that, let's get into it. With the new things that we've kind of talked about, my implementation of it has added me a little of a pause at the top. I'm kind of like sitting here because sometimes when I do the pause, I get so straight and I can't even rotate. So I kind of just sit on this. And on this pause, the transition to do the bump and turn is kind of like the things that I'm working on.
Wonderful. First off, I love that concept, right? I love kind of sitting into that here. We don't always have to straighten the leg to do that. I'm not a big, huge fan of that. I know some people extend a little bit more, but you're right. If I overextend, it's hard to get back. Okay. So we want some stability here, but I like that sitting part. And then the pause or the transition move to be able to have this be independent from this, right? To move that is crucial. And we've worked really hard on that. And I like the simplicity of the pause can trigger everything else after. So we're after simplicity, ultimately. So I'm all on board with that. So next.
From there, I'm just our left hand drill, just basically trying to do the thing without.
So keep the connection.
Getting this.
So we did a glove drill. So we're connected here. We're connected here. We're connected here. We're gonna if the arm plane starts to go on its own little merry way, we're going to quality of contact is going to be off. We sometimes open the face this way. So I like glove drill. Connection. Great.
And so that's like the only thing I'm really thinking about now for my swing. The two things that I've kind of thought that I would kind of want to run by you is there are times this is getting out to in still, and so want to maybe assess what I could do to work on that.
Sure.
And then I think I've always had a strong grip. I don't know if that's like a influence to the out and in, but I'm not sure if we want to kind of slightly make it less and then do a little kind of getting this more bowed in a sense. So those are the two things top mind, and then obviously kind of just like looking at the swing, making any other remarks.
Sure. Yeah, the grip, we talked about this a few minutes ago, it's challenging for me to just say one grip fits everybody. It doesn't. We're looking at release patterns. We're looking at what the shot pattern you want in the first place. I can have a very, very strong grip and I could hold it off and still hit fades. But if that strong grip now leads to a lot of rotation, that ball's going left in a hurry. So we're trying to, help the hands match everything else that's going on with the body for sure. We're at the stage, which is why it's a great question now, that we can start addressing that. I thought you started off with that grip. I think it was a great decision. Okay. And now as you get stronger and your body works better, we don't need this as much. Okay. So now we can be a little bit more passive with the hand. So we can experiment with that. The bigger question, which is many golfers go through, is how do they minimize the pattern that is going out to in? That's like number one thing, right?
For sure.
So this is where, this video may be 4 hours long because the combinations are what we're looking at. We can look at that if my shoulders went this way, it goes that way. My arms could work independently. Okay. If my weight went to the toe, so there's a lot of stuff going on, stuff with the ground force, right? If I go into my heel immediately, compared to my toe, that changes everything else above it too. So there's these combinations that we're looking at here that are very, very important. Okay? Cool. So we'll address that in a moment. Okay. That one's actually a good one to look at in a video here. Okay. We look at initial setup. I really like posture. We have the spacing. So always fundamentals first, right? As we take the club back, I want to keep the club head in front of you. And so I take away, it's in front of you. It looks pretty good. It wants to travel a little in right there. Then as we track back to here, I'm looking at length of swing. That's solid. Arms are still in front of you. You talked about sitting into that back hip. I think that looks great. Okay, so we've achieved that. Now as we make a transition, you're feeling like this is a pause from here to there. And that club is tracking in a very neutral way, isn't it? It's in the middle of the bicep right there. Club head is traveling behind hand, so this is actually slightly in to out.
Yeah.
And then as we get into impact, that ball started left, didn't it? That last one. Well, if it's in to out, then how'd that happen? Well, the club face closed, right?
Yeah.
So that could be anything from just a little bit too much hand action coming through. What I always look at the big picture first is how is your lower body working? Can I see that left hip come out? Pretty good. There's a little early extension there.
Yeah.
Come through. Pretty good finish, right? So it's a good golf swing. You talked about being the first two shots being thin.
Yeah.
Right? So thin shots are going to be either somebody's way too shallow. There could be a movement up here where we get ahead of the ball, so our low point changes a little bit. So those are things we can look at. But from this angle, because you asked about over the top, that was not over the top, correct?
Yeah.
That was on plane. Okay, got into position, hands released it a little bit, caused it to close down. Usually the shorter the club, the easier it is to manipulate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
the 5.
now we feel good about ourselves, don't we? Hey, nice. Okay, but now let's hit a few 5s.
Yeah.
And see what that pattern does, okay?
Okay.
And I usually ask the players, like, in the 9-iron, is there a feel that you're going with? I know you're trying to keep it consistent, the pause and everything, but there might be a different feel.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I feel like the club's behind me more. I feel my arms are closer to my body.
Yeah.
It's not saying it's good or bad. It's just saying it might be different, right? So let's have the same good setup. Okay. Give me 1 to 10 on contact on that one.
Contact 9.
9. Okay, so good contact.
Yeah.
Anything we can pull from the good shot.
I think my tempo for there was pretty good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So in golf, sometimes we focus on what's wrong so much, we forget to ask what's right.
Yeah.
That was a very solid golf shot, great balance, great tempo. We want to reinforce that, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it again. Okay. So from the front view now, because the front view does affect plane also, I look at how the upper body works and such, is the ball position for 5-iron is a little bit too far back. I like to see it a little more forward, especially because you've improved the use of your lower body so much. You're loaded, that looks awesome, okay? Now, you are transitioning. My concern in the past has been the head motion. If it moves too laterally ahead of it, I'm exaggerating. I would be over the ball, right? I would thin it. You have a ball slightly back and not on this one necessarily, but you have a preference going this way. That low point is past the ball. You're going to hit a lot of thin shots. Okay. Let's get the ball a little more forward.
Okay.
When we, again, look at that, looks awesome. Lower body is transitioning better. And we start getting into here. There's some good stuff going on there, right? Now that you've seen the swing, is there anything, again, you see that you may not feel, or now that you see something you may have questions on?
I would say the main thing I always look at when I'm looking at this way is the hands in front of the ball.
Yes.
So versus a 9 versus a 5, will that look the same in regards to like being ahead of the ball?
Right. So I like, to simplify things, the ball position does change.
Yes.
Okay. Width of stance changes a little bit, and these are subtle things.
Yes.
But I like to see that the butt end of the club points just a couple inches left of my belly button, my belt buckle, right?
Yep.
No matter what club you have in your hand. So I can go 9-iron, I can go 5-iron, I can go driver, that's similar.
Yeah.
We're not going to go, okay, 9-iron, I'm going to put more hands forward. That's like, no. The club's designed on a slight angle here anyways when it sits. Let's have it match just a little bit left of the belly button or the belt buckle for all of them.
Even at impact?
Well, okay, so setup, and then we've talked about impact is different.
Yeah, a little bit.
So 9-iron and 5-iron would probably look pretty similar
At impact.
dynamically through that.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Okay.
And so in that one though, that's like when I think if it's good or not, I'm not scooping it.
That did not look like a scoop.
Okay.
Now we could say we would want a touch more lean of shaft.
Yeah.
We can keep working on that. But I think part of it is if I put the ball too far back, I got to go, uh-oh, I got to get the club head there, or you're going to hit a top shot, right? We get it forward more, and we can keep the hands a little bit more forward longer.
Gotcha.
Type of a thing.
And why is this one a little more in the front versus in the center versus in the back?
Yeah, we're looking at low points. So when we have a pitching wedge or something, my feet are a little bit closer here. We get a little wider there. The movement pattern is going to be slightly different. The low point's going to move a little more towards your left. And then there is some with the angle of attack.
Okay.
Like, so a pitching wedge is going to be a little bit more upright compared to drive or shallow. That changes the low point also.
I see.
On that.
And then, so is my feet wider than per club going down like 9, 8?
And it's subtle, right?
Yeah,
so
subtle.
it's a little bit wider, a little bit wider, a little bit wider as we go.
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. If I'm too narrow, balance suffers,
Yeah.
but it's easy to turn.
Yep.
If I'm too wide, it feels solid, it feels secure, but it's very difficult to turn because the hips get locked out. So it's finding that. You're working hard in the gym of opening up the hips and those type of things. So those go hand in hand with the width of stance.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, 1 to 10?
1 to 10 contacts, 6, 7.
6, okay. Now that might be one that worked out on the golf course because it might have been straight enough, but you're right, quality contact was a little off. We've got hands go out just a little bit, club rolls here. Similar look to what we had 9-iron, right? So nothing different there. As we make that transition, this is what I'm seeing that's good, right? Notice the right elbow drops a little bit more, but not quite as much as the 9-iron, right?
Yeah.
Almost.
So is that considered out to in?
It would probably be a fraction.
Yeah.
But we know that if we went to driver, it's going to be longer than that.
Yeah, for sure.
So you asked about, what would change. One thing that can change the angle of the path and everything would be the shoulders, right? So if I move my shoulders just like this, compared to like this, it will change where the club comes in.
Yep.
So we may have to feel this left shoulder goes a touch more that way on the first move than that way.
Okay.
Because I think there's still a pulling motion that happens up in here as the club gets longer. And I want you to feel like it kind of goes that way for a split second. And then that changes it's an old adage with golf. Like if I had you skip a rock across the lake,
Oh, okay.
would I'd be here? I wouldn't be like this.
Okay.
I'd go bloop, right?
Yeah.
So I'm here, which is, notice that there's a little bit more tilt with the shoulders than if I stayed completely level, or obviously if I went this way, everything's going to move with that.
Okay. Can I try that?
Yeah.
And I'm coming 2 out here.
A touch. But you're rerouting okay. Let's focus on that downswing, feeling like your left shoulder goes a little bit more up on the downswing. Okay. You think that was in doubt?
Yes.
Right. Big time, right?
Yeah.
The ball fly went right to right, didn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So that's back to, you're a good athlete to where you can make a change quite quickly.
I always exaggerate.
Now, shoulder goes up, elbow goes down, that club's behind you now.
Yeah.
Okay. Club face is a little open, and you can see the tilt and side bend a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little too much. But back to, hey, what are ways to change it? The initial move could be done a lot with how the shoulders work.
Okay. So now I just need to dial back on the spectrum.
A little bit, but you'll be able to see the difference. I was concerned a few sessions back where we were working on the lower body, but your upper body was following.
Yeah.
That stayed this high.
Yep.
This has to be independent from that, which is part of the separation idea.
Yeah.
Let's go.